I'm here today again to answer one of the questions that have been posed by one of our own target visitors about the issues they see happening across the country. Today's question comes from Roland. He's an attorney, and here's what Roland asks. In regard to the current oligarchy known as mainstream media, I thought how nice it would be to have a free competitive press. Free press has dissolved in America. How do we demonopolize the current mainstream media configuration? This is a question I've written on a number of times, is the mainstream media and how it's run by all the major corporations. Everything you watch on television in terms of news, from CNN to Fox to MSNBC or whatever you're watching, if it's a large entity, is owned by major corporations. This has become a real problem because news today is, as I've often pointed out, pitched to us as entertainment, no matter what you watch. And often the very commercials that you watch are aimed at a particular audience. On Fox, for example, conservative commercials. On MSNBC, you'll get the more liberal commercials. So what's happened is people who make money off of news have basically taken over what we perceive as the information we should be receiving as good citizens. And it's getting much more difficult to even get the news on television. And again, I've written on this, and I wrote a column, can you really get the news from off of television? My conclusion is not a lot. For example, watching the morning news shows, it takes scanning all the major networks from Fox, MSNBC to CNN to get a snippet of what's really going on. For example, I turn to Fox, I see one of the so-called news anchors with a blindfold on tasting different yogurts. He's not giving me the news. I go to MSNBC and they're all excited about the latest scandal or what's happened to a certain celebrity. And the questions I'm operating off of in my mind saying, what's happening in Afghanistan? What's happening inside the White House? What's happening inside the NSA? Our civil liberties are at stake. Well, aren't you talking to me about this? But they don't. So they're pitching you the news as a product. And how do we get away from this? Okay, what's the solution to this? Well, what has happened to Americans generally is we're non-readers. We don't read anymore. That's why local newspapers are collapsing. The New York Times, the Washington Times in Washington, they're all in trouble. Big newspapers across the country. There are even commentators who say that the newspapers are going down. It's a thing of the past. I hope not. But the solution to that is subscribe to your newspaper. Start subscribing to your local newspaper especially. You really can't find out what goes on in your local community if you don't know what's in your local newspaper, from what they're charging you in taxes to the local school board. Read the New York Times, read the Washington Post, where you can actually get a large bundle of news and you'll get an idea of actually what's going on. I don't think we're going to be able to delimit what we see on television, because, to be honest with you, the news networks are no longer accountable to the average American. But we have the internet. We have our local newspaper. You have to scan the internet. You have to get the news. And call these people. Send emails to the networks and say, why aren't you giving me the news? Why is a fellow tasting yogurt when he should be telling me about Afghanistan? Why are we hearing about the latest celebrity scandal, from Tiger Woods to whatever, when we are committing 100,000 troops to Afghanistan and there's one contractor per soldier? That means that over 100,000 contractors are there, where they don't even give us accurate billing and American taxpayers are getting ripped off. Why don't we hear about that from you guys? So my answer to this is barrage them with complaints. That's the only, you have to move the elephant. So they say if an ant crawls up the snout of an elephant, it can drive the elephant crazy. We need a lot of ants out there crawling up the snout of the media conglomerates to get their attention. But all the while, you have to be informed. Read the newspapers, read books, and read the internet so you're an informed citizen, and you can challenge them at that point. And hopefully, sooner or later, we can get Americans to start turning off these programs if they're not going to respond to us.